Camping is supposed to be a peaceful escape, a chance to reconnect with nature and enjoy the calm of the wilderness. But when night falls and shadows stretch into the darkness, things can take a terrifying turn. Here are the top 3 scariest camping stories that might just make you think twice before heading out on your next adventure. So settle in and get ready for some spine-chilling tales from the woods. Number 3, the static in the air. Lana and Mark thought they had found the perfect spot for a weekend getaway, camping deep in a secluded meadow far from any marked trails. As they settled into their tent, an odd buzzing filled the air, like faint static electricity or a low electric hum. Mark's radio, which was switched off, suddenly crackled to life with a distorted voice whispering, "Don't look outside." A chill ran through them as the radio clicked off by itself. Just then, a faint rustling came from outside the tent, accompanied by the smell of something burning. They cautiously peeked out, but the forest was dark and still, with no sign of what could have made the noise. The next morning, Lana found an old photograph lying near their campfire. It was of her, standing in that very meadow, but she didn't recall ever taking it. Mark insisted that neither of them had brought a camera. As they hurriedly packed up to leave, the radio crackled to life once more, and the same voice whispered, "You forgot me." The air fell silent again, but an uneasy feeling lingered, as though they had been watched all along. Number 2, the Lantern Man. 3 friends camping by an old still lake noticed an unusual glow drifting across the water at dusk. The light moved too steadily to be a boat and seemed to float just above the water's surface, but no one else was around. They dismissed it as a trick of the light or perhaps a fisherman's lantern, even though no boats had been seen that day. Around midnight, one of them awoke to faint splashing sounds outside the tent. Peering out, they saw the lantern now glowing brighter and closer to the shore. Behind it, a tall, gaunt figure appeared to be emerging from the water, slowly approaching the campsite. As they shined their flashlight toward the figure, it vanished in an instant, leaving the lake dark and still. The next morning, they found wet footprints leading from the water directly to their tent, circling it in erratic patterns. The lantern was lying on the shore, its glass cracked and the wick damp. It seemed to have been placed there deliberately, as though left as a warning. Even after leaving, the memory of that night haunted them, and other campers still report seeing the same ghostly light drifting across the lake at dusk. And finally, at number 1, the hanging tree. Sarah and her friends stumbled upon an ancient twisted tree while hiking deep in the forest. Its gnarled branches stretched out in every direction, and from one of them hung a thick frayed rope swaying gently in the wind. That night, Sarah dreamed of shadowy figures gathering around the tree, their blank faces and hollow eyes fixated on her. The next morning, her friends mentioned hearing faint, indistinct whispers during the night, like voices carried on the wind. When they returned to the tree, the rope had been tied into a noose, though they were certain it hadn't been that way before. The sense of dread deepened as they felt like the forest was closing in on them, and every path they took brought them back to the hanging tree. As night descended once more, Sarah heard her name whispered from somewhere behind her. She turned and saw ghostly figures hanging from the branches, swaying gently as if beckoning her closer. She felt a tightness in her chest as her vision darkened and she collapsed to the ground. When she woke up, she was lying near their car, her friends saying they had found her unconscious by the tree. None of them ever spoke about that night again, but the memory of it stayed with Sarah, lingering like a shadow in her mind. Camping is meant to be a relaxing escape into the wilderness, but sometimes the woods hold more than just the beauty of nature. These stories are a chilling reminder that the shadows in the forest may conceal more than just wildlife. When night falls and the campfire dims, stay vigilant. You never know what might be lurking in the darkness. Stay safe and always trust your instincts when something feels off.